Okay, today, good morning. Today we have chapter 4. Now, last time we stopped at the truth. Today we'll explain what we mean by truth. Let's an example, and Jack swims. Jack swims. Let's show the situation here. And suppose you are sitting on the side of a pool, and you see Jack is swimming here. You hear this sentence, Jack swims, and you know the meaning of the sentence. Then in this case, you will say that this sentence must be true. Must be true. Like, if you are indoors and if you are inside the house, and you happen to believe that Jack never learned to swim, and you know that Jack doesn't know swimming. In this case, when you hear the word Jack swims, then what is your judgment here? So you say here, in the sentence is what is false. Okay. And in this case, you will suppose that the speaker is informed or lying. Okay. If we apply this to the sentence here, we say, if you know the meaning of a sentence, then what can you do? You can determine under what condition it is true or false. Under what conditions it is true and false. Can show me conditions? When, for example, if you are in the pool side and you see Jack swimming, and you know the meaning of the sentence, in this case, you will judge that the sentence is true. But for example, if you are indoor and inside the house or inside the building, and you happen to believe that Jack never learned to swim, then when you hear the sentence that Jack swims, in this case, you will suppose that this what is false. So in this case, we can say, applying this to the sentence, if you know the meaning of a sentence, then you can determine under what conditions it is true or false. But it is not necessary to know whether a sentence is true or false to know its meaning. Even it is not necessary to know whether a sentence is true or false to know the meaning. But knowing the meaning tells you how to determine the truth. How to determine the truth value, or how to know the truth value. Okay. For example, the sentence copper conducts electricity has meaning. This meaningful sentence. And it is understood why? Because we know how to determine whether it is true or false. Because we know how to determine whether it is true or false. How? By using a voltmeter. A voltmeter. And this device is used to find out whether copper conducts electricity. Okay. But if the sentence here was crumple-horned snorks in Karandin Nargil's organized sentence, it is meaningless without meaning. Why? Because we haven't any idea how to determine whether it's true or false. Even this sentence is without meaning. Why? Because we don't know how to determine whether it is true or false. In this case here, reducing the question of meaning to a question of truth condition has proved to be very fruitful in understanding the semantic properties of language. Either reducing what? Reducing the question of meaning to what? To the question of truth conditions. To the question of truth condition. In this case, this will be very fruitful in understanding or helpful in understanding the semantic properties of the language. For most sentences, it does not make sense to say that they are always true or always false. And it doesn't make sense when you say that these sentences are always true or they are always false. Neither they are true or false where in given situation. When we have certain situation, then we can say whether it is true or false. As we see in the example Jackson's, a limited number of sentences are always true. Limited, a restricted number of sentences. Okay, are always true. Are always true. Irrespective of the circumstances. These are called tautologies. Tautologies. Yani, the sentences that are always true are called tautologies. Tautologies. Okay? أو ممكن نسميهم analytic. Examples of tautologies, like for example, circles are round, it's always true. A person who is single is not married, but it's true, it's always true. And the truth of this is guaranteed based by the meaning of their parts. By the meaning of their parts and the way they are what? Put together. And the way they are put together. Okay? إذا في عندنا limited number of sentences that are always true. زي اللي حكينا عنهم قبل شوية. The circles are round. A person who is single is not married. Here the truth of these sentences is guaranteed because of the meaning of the parts of the sentence. Okay. So, some sentences are always false. Sentences are always false. What do we call these? We call them what? Contradictions. Contradictions. Okay. Examples of contradictions: the circles are square. This is false. Our bachelor is married. This is false. Even in language, we have limited set of sentences that are always true. Okay. نسميهم about tautologies. فعندنا set numbers. A number of set sentences that are always false. We call this as contradictions. Contradictions. Again, tautologies are always sentences that are always true. Contradiction, sentences that are always false. Okay. Any question about truth? Any question? So this is how we determine the truth of the sentence. Okay. Now let's move to another topic, entailment and related notions. Okay. If we know that a sentence, for example, like Jack swims beautifully, is true. If we know that this sentence, Jack swims beautifully, is true, then we also know that the sentence Jack swims is true. Okay. Even if we know that Jack swims beautifully is true, then also we know that the sentence Jack swims is true. This meaning relation شو بنسميه entailment. This meaning relation is called what? Entailment. شو entailment يعني? When you know a sentence, is it true? Then also we can, the part of the sentence is also true. When we say, for example, Jack swims beautifully, is it true? And we know that Jack swims is also true. Because this is part of what, or it is inside the sentence. So in this case, we say that Jack swims beautifully entails Jack swims. Okay? Then we say that Jack swims beautifully entails Jack swims. Yani in other words, one sentence entails another. أما تكون if whenever the first sentence is true, the second sentence is also true. Okay? Then entailment here means a sentence entails another. Yani if a sentence is true, the other sentence is also true. So whenever the first sentence is true, the second is also what? Is also true. شو نسميها here? Entailment. Entailment يعني a sentence entails the truth of other sentence. If the sentence is true, then the other sentence is what? True. This is we call what? Entailment. Okay. So an entailment in general goes on one direction. They go in what? One direction. Yani it's not circular or something like that. For example, while the sentence Jack swims beautifully, Jack swims beautifully, entails Jack swims, the reverse is not true. The reverse is not true. يعني, if we say, for example, Jack swims, هنا Jack swims doesn't entail إنه Jack swims beautifully. بينما يعني Jack swims beautifully, this entails that Jack swims, but Jack swims doesn't entail that Jack swims beautifully. Okay. So knowing that Jack swims is true does not necessitate the truth of Jack swims beautifully. Okay. Even when we say Jack swims, when we say that Jack swim is true, in this case, this doesn't entail that Jack swims beautifully. Or doesn't necessarily mean that it is true that Jack swims beautifully. ممكن أن يكون Jack could be a poor swimmer. In other words, negating both sentences and making them negative. What does this mean? Reverse the entailment. Reverse the entailment. مثلا نقول Jack doesn't swim entails Jack doesn't swim beautifully. Then Jack doesn't swim entails Jack doesn't swim beautifully. إذا برضه negating هنا both sentences شو بعمل؟ reversing the entailment. يعني the entailment here is what? Is not true. Then what does the notion of entailment help us to do? It helps us to what? To have knowledge about other meaning relations. Other meaning relations. For example, omitting tautologies and contradictions. If we omit tautologies and contradictions, then the two sentences are synonymous. Two sentences are synonymous. Okay? Or paraphrase. Okay? Even omitting tautologies شو نعمل قبل شوي احنا انه sentences are always true ونفس الشيء omitting contradictions قلنا some sentences are always false طبعا هو شو بصير عن السنتنس؟ two sentences بيكونوا ايش؟ synonymous يعني they have the same meaning. If they are both true or both false. For example, sentence like Jack put off the meeting and Jack postponed the meeting. طبعا all these sentences have the same meaning. Put off يعني معناته postpone. Why? Because when one is true. طبعا one مثلا for example قلنا Jack put off the meeting. The other age must be true. So when we say Jack postponed the meeting here, on this sentence is like the first sentence say Jack put off the meeting. So when this one Jack put off the meeting is true, then the second sentence Jack postponed the meeting, what is also true. Because they have the same meaning. They are synonymous. And when one is false, even the other should تكون برضه false. Okay? When one false is the other تكون false. Now here we can illustrate this thing by what? Using the notion of entailment. Two sentences are synonymous if they entail each other. Then two sentences are synonymous and having the same meaning if they entail each other. شو يعني entail each other? يعني when one is true, the other what is also true. When one sentence or one sentence entails the other sentence. And one sentence true, that sentence is what also true. When one sentence is false, also the other sentence is also what? False. So if sentence A entails sentence B and vice versa, so what is the result here? Then whenever A is true, then whenever A is true, شو بتكون B برضه is true. Okay. And vice versa. شو يعني vice versa؟ يعني whenever A is false, B is what? Is false. Although entailment says nothing about specifically about false sentences, الحالة هاي نقدر نقول إنه sentence A entails sentence B. If sentence A entails sentence B, then whenever B is false, then whenever B is false, A must also be false. If A were true, also B would have to be true. And if B entails A, then answer A is false. B would have to be false. يعني B second sentence. If it entails the first sentence, زي ما قلنا شوية. Jack swims beautifully. إذا Jack swims هنا entails تكون false بتكون Jack swims beautifully false. لو قلنا Jack swims beautifully هنا tails إنه Jack swims. Yeah. Even if sentence is true, the second sentence is also true. And the sentence is false, the second sentence is also false. So, إذا عندنا هنا الميتشوال entailment guarantee identical true values in all situations. إذا guarantees identical true values in all situations. شو يعني هنا إنه sentences are synonymous. Sentences are synonymous and having the same meaning. Okay. Two sentences are contradictory and they are not the same. So if whenever one is true, whenever is one true, so بتكون الثانية false. The other is false. Okay. The other is false. إذن whenever لو كنا sentence two contradictory sentences, if one of them is true, then the other تكون is false. In other words, there is no situation in which they are both true or both false. For example, the sentence Jack is alive and Jack is dead. Although two sentences are contradictory and they don't have the same meaning, they have opposing meaning. Why are they contradictory? Why? because if the sentence Jack is alive is true. Okay, شوفوا الحالة هاي the sentence Jack is dead is ايش؟ is false. Okay, إذا لو قلنا مثلا sentence is Jack is alive هنا sentence B أو second sentence إنه Jack is dead بتكون false. ليش؟ لأنه Jack is dead is alive he's not dead. نفس الشيء vice versa. Okay, so we say here Jack is alive and Jack is dead. وهو شو مالهم؟ They are not true. Why? Because they have opposite truth values. يعني they do not have a truth value. يعني they are not the same. They are contradictory. So in this case, like synonyms, contradictions can also be what? Reduced to a special case of entailment. Here we say two sentences are contradictory if one entails the negation of the other. يعني بكون عندنا two sentences are contradictory if one entails the negation of the other. If one is the opposite of the other, or if one contrasts the other. Okay. وأنا قلنا قبل شوية two sentences are synonymous if they entail each other. If they entail. يعني two sentences have the same meaning if they entail each other. Okay. زي ما قلنا قبل شوية هنا مثلا إنه jackpot of the meeting. It's the same meaning as Jack postponed the meeting. Okay. But in this case, we can say these synonymous words, like contradiction, can be reduced to what? A case of entailment. If two sentences are contradictory, and we say that two sentences are contradictory if one entails the negation of the other, and the opposite of the other. For example, Jack is alive entails the negation of Jack is dead. Entails that Jack is dead. Jack is not dead. إذا when we say Jack is alive معناته إنه في عندنا نيجاتيف إنه Jack إيش؟ negation لجاك is dead. وفي الحالة بيكون Jack إيش is not dead يعني he's alive. And one of two sentences are contradictory. Yes. When we say Jack is alive, it's the opposite of Jack is dead. Okay. So when Jack is dead, شو بتعمل؟ Jack is dead negates that Jack is alive. Even when we say Jack is dead, this negates that Jack is alive. In other words, يعني Jack is not alive. هون عندنا في عنا negation. Jack is dead يعني Jack is not alive. إذا في عنا negation. Okay. Even Jack is dead entails the negation of Jack is alive أو namely بقول Jack is not alive. Even the notion of contradiction always false and contradictory opposite in truth value. Truth value. These two what related in that if two sentences are contradictory, شو بكون their conjunction here with and is contradiction. Then when we have two contradictory sentences, conjunction and, when we use and, okay, برضه بكون contradiction. For example, Jack is alive and Jack is dead. We cannot use and here coordinator conjunction. ليش? Because when we say Jack is alive, then he is not. Yes, he is dead. He is not alive. Even when we say Jack is alive and Jack is dead, these are contradiction. يعني we cannot say that Jack is alive and at the same time he is dead. When we go, Jack is not alive. This is what we call synonymous. But when we say Jack is alive and Jack is dead, هنا في عندنا contradictory. يعني the first sentence is the opposite of the second sentence. اوكي. هاي بالنسبه لايش؟ ل entailment or related notions. Any question about this? Any question? Okay. We'll move to ambiguity. حكينا ambiguity اعتقد بالchapter 3. Now we have also another ambiguity. And the semantic meaning of sentences, or our semantic knowledge, tells us there are we have more than one meaning for sentences. We have more than one meaning in sentence. طبعا when we have more than one meaning, نقدر نقول sentences are sentence is ambiguous. يعني ambiguity means sentence has two meanings. حكينا بشابتر 3 تذكر قلنا the boy saw the man with the telescope كانت عباره عن structural ambiguity. سمينا structural ambiguity. اوكي. فهنا it is ambiguous. ليش ambiguous؟ أنا فينا two meanings. we can say for example the boy saw the man with the telescope يعني نقدر نفسر the first meaning the boy used a telescope to see the man أو second meaning the boy saw a man holding a telescope. Even this sentence is ambiguous because it has two meanings. Okay. إذا هاي نقدر نعتبرها يعني بالنسبة لل sentence هاي نقدر نعتبرها structural ambiguity. Structural ambiguity. ليش؟ Because it is associated with two what different phrase structure rules. With two phrase structure rules. كل rule أو كل sentence is what belong to what the phrase structure rule. هاي نرد نعيدها هنا tense. Use the tense here. Okay. هنا التنس هنا في عندنا tense phrase and في هنا في عندنا minus plus past and verb in the past C. هنا في عندنا empty وفي عندنا VP here. برضه VP معناه verb برضه بنزل منه empty ثاني determiner الان بعدين PP لو prepositional phrase. اوكي. هاي الفيرست structure. second structure شوف الديفرنس between them هنا. هنا MP هون MP PP T هنا نفس الشيء. هنا this one و this one is what similar. اوكي. هنا ننتقل هون الديفرنس بصير هنا V في عندنا MP هون في عندنا PP. اوكي. And this is what not the same structure. اوكي. هنا عندنا V PP هون empty. اوكي. إذا هنا these two sentences حكينا عنهم. قلنا هاي sentence حكينا عنها the boy saw a man with a telescope. the man with a telescope هاي عبارة عن ambiguous لأن two has two meanings وبنقدر نسميها structural ambiguity. ليش؟ لأن both two meanings are they relate to different structures. Okay. So we call them what structural ambiguity. So in one here if you look at one اللي هي PP with the telescope شو بتعمل هون PP with the telescope هاي هون PP with the telescope شو بتعمل modifies ايش the noun اللي هو ايش man. Okay. إذا with the telescope belong to the man يعني the man was holding a telescope. هاي الفيرست meaning. Okay. إذا ال PP here with the telescope modifies ايش man. معناته انه الانتربريتيشن تبعها انه the man has the telescope. This man has the telescope. Two ال PP هون ايش with the telescope modifies ايش modifies the verb. Okay, اللي هو ايش see. Okay, اللي هو الاكشن of seeing the man. إذا شو المينينج هنا تصير؟ إنه the boy saw the man by using the telescope. Okay. إذا هنا في عندنا زي ما قلنا structural ambiguity. ليش؟ إنه sentence has two different structures here. حكينا إنه هنا ال PP modifies the noun, بينما هنا ال PP modifies the verb. So they have what? It has two meanings. Okay. بنسميها structural ambiguity. في عندنا شيء ثاني اسمه lexical ambiguity. When do we have lexical ambiguity? When one word in a phrase has more than one meaning. A word يعني. ما بنحكيش عن structure، نحكي عن word اللي بنسميها lexical ambiguity. مثلا this will make you smart. وهي ambiguous. ليش؟ Because it has two meanings. طبعا smart معناتها clever. Smart معناتها feel a burning sensation. إذا this sentence is ambiguous. نسميه هنا عندنا lexical ambiguity لأنه الword هنا smart لها two meanings. The first one معناتها clever, the second معناتها feel burning sensation. إذا صار عندنا هنا نمج of lexical و structural ambiguities. إذا بالحالة هاي this leads us to know that linguistic expression is built both on words it contains and on its syntactic structure. Okay, even the meaning of linguistic expression here is based on the words of the sentence and its what syntactic structures. يعني النوشن عندنا that the meaning of an expression is composed of the meaning of its parts and how they are combined هي syntactic structurally سميها principle of compositionality. إذا شو يعني principle of compositionality؟ إنه the meaning of an expression is composed of the meaning of its parts. إذا the meaning of a sentence is composed of the meaning of its parts. مش بس parts كالmeaning كمان how they are combined structurally يعني لو إيش syntactic structure واحد. Okay. إذا شو بنسميها هاي principle of compositionality. Principle of compositionality. إنه the meaning of a sentence is composed of its parts, the meaning of its parts, and how they are structurally what combined. Okay. So now let's talk about compositional semantics. إذا صار عندنا هنا lexical semantics and compositional semantics. So to account for speakers' knowledge of grammaticality, we have a constituent structure of the sentence and the relations between sentences. برضه في عندنا limitless gravity يعني unlimited gravity of our linguistic speakers. We can say that the grammar must contain what? Syntactic rules. Even to account for speakers' knowledge of grammaticality, constituent structure and relation between sentences, in addition to limitless or unlimited creativity of our linguistic competence, we can say that grammar must contain syntactic rules. The grammar must have syntactic rules. So, to account for these things, the knowledge that we have of the truth, reference, entailment, ambiguity, sentences, command our ability to determine the meaning of a limitless number of expressions. What should we do? We must suppose that grammar contains semantic rules and that What do these semantic rules? Combine the meaning of words into meaningful phrases and sentences. Even we can see the grammar has semantic rules that combine the meaning of words into meaningful phrases and sentences. As we have syntactic rules, we have semantic rules. Okay, we have semantic rules. Then we should here focus on what these semantic rules. For example, when we say Jack swims, we know that the word Jack عبارة عن proper noun or proper name refers إيش to somebody or object in the word. لو نسميه referent. إذا Jack is a proper name referring to object in the word واللي نسميه referent. For instance, نشوف referential meaning of Jack. شو referential meaning of Jack؟ إنه he is the guy who is your friend and who is swimming happily in the pool right now. Okay. Even referential meaning of Jack, إنه Jack is the guy who is your friend and who is swimming happily in the pool right now. Based on this, in this assumption, we can say the meaning of the name Jack is the individual it refers to. Even the meaning of the name Jack is the individual it refers to. So when the guy who is your friend and who is swimming happily in the pool right now. But what about the meaning of the verb swim? So when you use here the verb swim, this cannot pick out a particular thing in the word, like the proper names do. Even in verbs, they swim, cannot pick out a particular thing in the word زي ما شفنا the way proper names do. But there is a way to think about verbs and adjectives and common nouns like a cake or like cake. In terms of what they refer to. زي ما قلنا just as the referent of Jack relies on what is happening in the world, whether Jack is alive or not, and whether he is swimming in the pool right now. The referent of a swim depends on what's happening, what in the world. Even the referent of a swim, the verb, depends on what's happening in the world. In this case, based in part on early philosophical work conducted by Cloto Frege, Bertrand Russell, semanticists think that the best way to define predicates, normal verbs, adjectives, common nouns is in terms of what of the individuals that those preceding successfully what described. In the best way to describe predicates, زي الverbs, adjectives, common nouns, in the terms of the individuals that those predicates successfully describe. For example, the best way to characterize the meaning of swim is by having it denote the set of individuals, human beings and animals that swim. Now I think time is over now. We stop here and continue next time.